Overeating Anonymous is a fellowship of individuals who, through shared experience, strength, and hope, are recovering from compulsive overeating. We welcome everyone who wants to stop eating compulsively. There are no dues or fees for members. We are self-supporting through our own contributions, neither soliciting nor accepting outside donations. OA is not affiliated with any public or private organisation, political movement, ideology, or religious doctrine. We take no position on outside issues. Our primary purpose is to abstain from compulsive eating and compulsive food behaviours and to carry the message of recovery through the 12 steps of OA to those who still suffer. How our meeting works. At this meeting, we follow a rotating form. On the second week of the month is a recovered OA speaker who will be speaking on the topic of their choosing for 30 minutes. There will be a follow-up Q&A segment for 15 minutes where fellows are welcome to ask any questions of our speakers related to the topic in question. This meeting will be recorded by audio only, and you will see a recording sign at the top of your screen. The Q&A section of our meeting will also be recorded. Please only post your questions in the chat function to our host, Alan, this evening, and we ask a question honestly on your behalf. Please do not do this before the Q&A segment opens. Before we share, it's time for our 7th tradition. Although we are meeting electronically, we still have Zoom meeting costs to pay. We also give contributions to OA, UK, Europe and beyond, which is our virtual intergroup. Please make a contribution using the PayPal link that will be entered into the chat now. Newcomers, we ask that you wait to contribute until you are sure you would like to be here. Today is a speaker meeting and we are honoured to have Wanda C come and share her experience, strength and hope. So I will pass over to you now, Wanda, and the timekeeper will keep a time for you. Thank you.
Unmuted. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I was going to thank Brona, but I still don't see her yet. So I'll just thank you guys. Thank you for inviting me to come in and talk to your meeting and share my share with you and my story. I am Wanda, and I am a recovered compulsive overeater living in Chicagoland. I'm about 50 miles from Chicago in Illinois. I am a bit nervous. I always get nervous, even before a 3-minute share. But I got even more nervous when I saw the speaker release agreement and I had to sign it. And I was reading all those things and I'm like, oh my gosh, I might need to get a lawyer. I have to look at this before I sign my name to it. And I did sign it. And then I realized, oh yeah, it's going to be a YouTube and it's going to be out there for a year. And that just really got my ego going. And my ego really wants me to be very perfect. And that added a lot of more pressure. So because of that, I'm going to pray. And I would have prayed anyway. But if you don't mind, I would like to pray for me and us. Thank you. God, set aside for me and us everything that I think that I should say tonight, for a new experience of what you would have me say. Relieve me of this awful bondage of ego and the desire to impress and entertain, for an authentic telling of your story in my life. Amen and amen. So I am a military brat. What that means is that my dad was in the Navy when I was born, and we traveled around the world for the next 20 years. I never lived anywhere longer than 3 years, and sometimes only as much as 1 year. Japan and Cuba are the 2 countries that I remember and I'm aware of, and we lived in lots of different states. My father, like many in our little circle of families in the military, drank a lot of alcohol, and my mom was the sweetest and kindest codependent you could ever want to know. So I was raised by a rageaholic who was my father and a saint. I did leave home when I was 17 years old. We were living in South Carolina at the time, and I left home with a boyfriend, and he was a heroin addict. I myself never did heroin, but I did do just about everything else. And when I left home with him, we ran the streets of Chicago for quite a few years, and sex and drugs and rock and roll and, the era of hippies. That's what my life was for a while. Eventually I would marry, and my husband, Phil, I'm married now 43 years, and I would have 3 kids, and my life was awful. It was okay, but it was awful. My emotions, my dysfunction. I was a very miserable human being. And I wasn't into the food as much as I was always dieting. I was always trying to look and feel better. Body dysmorphia had a hold of me. I didn't know that word then, of course. I do know that now. And I was always dieting and trying to look and feel better. I do have reactive hypoglycemia, so which just means I need to eat every couple of hours. And that led me to always be eating and not being able to control my life, control my food, control my kids, control my husband, or control myself. A very unmanageable and dysfunctional life. I felt fat, and I saw fat, and I saw disgust when I looked in the mirror. I really, really believed that if I were to whip my body into a beautiful shape, that everything that was wrong in my life would be fixed. I was fortunate to meet my higher power 10 years into my marriage. And that experience, and my life got better. It got a whole lot better when my higher power came into my life. I was raging on one of my kids one day, and I looked up, there's a mirror there, and I saw my father's eyes. And I got scared, and I knew there was a really, really big problem, and I needed to do something about it, which sent me on a quest, a spiritual quest, to find an answer for my life and some help. I did find a church, and I did find that higher power, and I was very happy with it. I loved that church, and I was in ministry, and I got wounded in that ministry by my church, and also by of course, my God. So it was an emotional wounding, and in effect, I went and laid on the couch for 15 years and threw a big old temper tantrum. I got hurt, and I'm not ever going to get hurt again. Now, I continued to go to church, and God continued to be wonderful in my life, but I was never going to go out on a limb. I was never going to go out and work for him again because I could get too wounded. I got scared. I was traumatized, and guess what? I found my new best friend, food. I acquired my eating problem on that couch for that 15 years. The refrigerator and the TV and the food and food and food and more food became my entire world. It's what kept me sane and somewhat happy. I would watch TV during that time, and I would see people having a lot of fun and going out there and making a difference in the world. And it would break my heart that all I could do, because my fear of going out in the world was so big, that all I could do was lay on that couch and eat. And I couldn't stop eating. And it was all that I could do. So I did, during that time, start going to OA meetings. I knew of 12-step. My mom was a 12-step leader in Florida for women. And so I knew 12-step worked. I had heard about OA, and I started going to some OA meetings, looking for some relief. And I tell you, I did that for 10 years. I was poopy face, my arms were crossed, I would cry and I would swear, and I didn't get it, and I didn't know what they were talking about. And I just couldn't do it. And I lost my other page. I didn't understand what they were talking about. Now, I did have some obstacles. I wasn't 100 pounds overweight. And so, of course, I didn't think I belonged. I was 40 pounds overweight. I had a higher power, and a lot of them didn't. And they didn't, and I had one, and it was great. I had a higher power. So, and I also, a lot of the stories I heard there were, this desiring to eat a lot at a young age. And I didn't have that. But I had the body dysmorphia, and I certainly had the food colony, and I certainly my life was unmanageable and out of control. So then what happened? Well, at menopause is what happened to me. And now not only did I loathe and hate myself all day long because I was overweight and couldn't, I would start that new diet. I just couldn't stick with it. And so my esteem just got less and less because I couldn't even I had no even integrity with myself. And now I'm tossing and turning at night with the hot sweats. Well, now I get to beat myself up all night long. And as I'm tossing and turning, I'm coming awake and I'm remembering what I ate and I'm beating myself up and I'm hating life. So I got 24/7 self-loathing. And it was too much. It was just too much for me. So one day I did fall out of bed and I threw my hands in the air and told my higher power, okay, fine. I will be as fat as you want me to be. Just take this shit out of my head. I needed the turmoil to be gone. In essence, I was actually willing to trade my vanity, because the only reason I was coming there was to get skinny. And this great higher power that I had was not, either couldn't or wasn't going to zap me skinny. It just wasn't going to happen that way. And I kept expecting him to do that. And so I was ready to trade vanity. I didn't even care if my body was skinny anymore. I needed some sanity. So I was willing to trade the vanity for the sanity. Things happened pretty fast after that ugly surrender. At a meeting, the same meeting that I always went to, I heard a woman sharing that how she lived in steps 10, 11, and 12. And I had only done the 1, 2, 3 waltz over and over and over and over for those 10 years. Had a few sponsors here and there, and we would just commiserate with each other. And I wasn't getting it. And I would only stay for a little while and then I would leave. And I heard 2 messages while I was there, a fabulous home group that I still have. And those messages were, Wanda, put down the hammer. Put down the hammer. It is not a tool of our program. And the other one was, just keep coming back. Just keep coming back, Wanda. The miracle will happen. I am so glad that I did not know that it was going to take 10 years for that miracle to happen. I mean, I'm just glad I didn't know it. Because I would go and expect that miracle to happen and it wouldn't. And it took me 10 years for it to finally happen. And I'm just glad I didn't know it then. But the miracle did happen. I heard this woman say 10, 11, and 12. I got excited. I asked her to be my sponsor. And we read the big book. She introduced me to the big book. She introduced me to Vision for You and a food plan, and helped me stay on it, helped me figure out what that looked like. Saw a few doctors for my hypoglycemia. And I do need to eat 5 times a day. I wish I didn't, but I do. And I always have hard-boiled eggs in my purse. I can get stinky if you forget about them, but it's what I need to do. And I do go to whatever length I need to do today to stay abstinent. But we read through the big book. I did everything she said, and I didn't argue a lot. I did question some things, but I didn't argue a lot. It took about 6 months to finish all those steps. Now, during that 10 years that I was poopy facing that meeting, one time I did go to a big book meeting, and I went to that meeting. I didn't know it was a big book meeting. I just went to a different meeting than the meeting I always went to. And they read the big book and flipped me out. I crossed my arms. I read 1 paragraph when it was my turn, and I crossed my arms and I said, I will never, ever equate what I do with what my alcoholic father does and did. I have never fallen down drunk. out on the lawn for the whole world to see. I will never equate that. I pretty much shut my heart to anything Big Book after that until I got my sponsor and I was ready. So I was ready when I was ready. And when the student is ready, I love that the teacher will arrive. And she did. I did get abstinent, and I have not had recreational sugar, any type of dessert, for 6 years. And I've been pretty much the same body size for the last 6 years. And I love recovery and I love being recovered. I told Brona that I wanted to talk about a psychic change that happens when we work these steps, because that is where my transformation happened for me. When I came into OA, I did have a strong, loving, and powerful higher power. I had a spiritual life, and wouldn't or couldn't, zap me skinny. And there were times in that 10 years that I would be at my church and I would be singing to my higher power. It's what we did. And I would be vomiting in my throat, right? Because I had eaten so much food at dinner that I couldn't even worship. I couldn't sing to this higher power that I claim to love so much. And 3 different times in that 10 years, my higher power whispered to me to go back to OA, go back to OA. And so the 3 times I took a break, the 3 times I did go back. So I had some spiritual power. There was stuff happening out in the heavens that were on my side, but I didn't have the directions. I didn't know what to do. I had no clue what to do about this obsession and this compulsion with this food and this disease. I just didn't know what to do. So my most favorite paragraph I guess I can't say that. I have so many favorite paragraphs, but the paragraph I probably read the most, and that I always read first with my sponsees, is page 27 of the Big Book. And that is in the section where Roland Hazard is working with Carl Jung, and they just can't keep him sober. And Roland Hazard is desperate. And the doctor says, yeah, you're a chronic alcoholic.
That's 15 minutes, Wanda.
Thank you, hon. I think we have perfect time. Thank you. You have the mind of a chronic alcoholic. I'm reading on page 27. I've never seen a single case recover where that state of mind existed to the extent that it does in you. And our friend felt as though the gates of hell had closed on him with a clang. And Roland says to the doctor, is there no exception? Is there no exception? And the doctor says, well, yeah, there is. Exceptions in cases like yours have been occurring since early times, here and there, once in a while. There's alcoholics that have had what are called vital spiritual experiences. Now, I've had a vital spiritual experience. I had one 30 years earlier, and I was one person one day and the next day I was somebody different. But that wasn't fixing my problem here. So this vital spiritual experience, but here is what happened to me. To me, these occurrences are a phenomena, he says. They appear to be in the nature of huge emotional displacements and rearrangements. Oh, I can't even say those words without getting the chills. Ideas and emotions and attitudes, which were the guiding forces of the lives of Wanda, was suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set, a whole new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate. In fact, I have been trying to produce these emotional rearrangement within you, which I think is very comical. Dr. Jung says it's a spiritual experience, but he has been trying to produce that in Roland, a human that was trying to produce a spiritual experience. That does make me laugh. So what I love about this, I call this brain surgery. And I speak to my new sponsees and my sponsees actually all throughout my sponsoring, that this is what we will do. This is what is going to happen to us, because this is what happened to me. I showed up. A commitment, I had not been able to keep commitments before that. I would show up, I would meet with my sponsor, and we would read. We would read this big book, and we would share our lives. And she had me write the set aside prayer in the front of my big book. I would pray that before we read, which was like putting me in the hospital room, in the surgery room. This is brain surgery. I was getting ready for a psychic change. And as we read, higher power would change me and change her. Higher power would move all these attitudes and emotions and thoughts. It would do the rearranging. You know how we have a left brain and a right brain? I could just imagine and picture. And sometimes it was hard and it felt like it was going on. And I could just feel like this stuff was like getting over to the other side, you know, that seam in the middle of our brains, but feel these emotions and things moving over there. And then they would slide back, and then they would try to move over there some more. And this was this brain surgery. And I could just imagine and picture higher power coming in there with his little instruments and just creating a change in me, for me and to me, but not necessarily without me. I did have to show up and do my part. I did have to meet with my sponsor. I did have to do the big book. I did have to commit my food plan. I did have to kick and scream and cry, but do it anyway. I had to throw my temper tantrums. I had to try over and over, and I had to fail sometimes, and I had to do it again over and over. And in all of that, higher power changed me. I had a psychic change. The one that they talk about here, this brain surgery by God, and a heart surgery as well. It's a beautiful thing. My sponsees and I commit to meet. That's what I do for them. I commit to meet with them. Together we will read, and higher power does the rest. And he does all of the changing. Or she. We have some she higher powers too. And that's okay too. So that happened to me, and that was the psychic change. In the beginning, I knew the disease as the dragon. I just needed to personify this stuff that seemed too big for me, and to break it down into word pictures that I could manage. So I saw my disease as a dragon, and I found this great 7-headed dragon picture, and I took it out of a book and I pasted it on the wall. And then I knew that I had to fight that dragon, and I knew that dragon lied to me, and I knew that dragon was going to tell me lies and things that weren't true. I had to keep changing my mind all day long. And I would hear, it took a while for me to even start hearing the words, but I started grasping my thoughts. I started taking them captive, if you will. I would write them on a Post-it note, and I would put it up on the dragon on the wall. Well, I also had a picture of a warrior girl, because this is a fight. This is a battle. This is big. This is huge. There's a battle for my life going on here, and my sanity and my sobriety. And I had a picture of a warrior girl right next to that dragon. And sometimes I would have to call. And if that dragon's like, it's okay if you have one bite of this, or, you know, you're just such a shit. Who are you to think you can do any of this stuff, you know? And I would have to call people and say, my dragon's telling me this, but I don't even know the truth. And somebody would tell me a truth. I'd write that on a Post-it note, and I'd flash it up on that warrior girl. This is what I needed to do to get that psychic change. I needed to change my mind. So much of my mind was warped. I've come to learn today that much of that is true for people that come from alcoholic homes and dysfunctional families. So this was so much bigger than the food, but the food is what kept me alive. The food is what solved a lot of my problems when I didn't even know what was going on. And for that, I'm grateful. For that, I am grateful. So I had to take some really strange actions like that, you know, talking to the disease, talking to the dragon. I I went out and bought a cute little hammer, and I had to put it up on my dresser because I would look at that and it would remind me not to beat myself up. I did that so very much. And I had to do a lot of talking and a lot of working of the steps. A couple years ago, I've been the same weight pretty much for 6 years, give or take a pound or here or there. I lost 15 pounds in the last year, but I still had body image issues. My new frontier became my intergroup did an event using the body image book, Relationships and Sexuality, that World Service put out. And so we put on a workshop for body image, and that became my new frontier. And I started attending body image meetings. Whoa, changed my life, changed my world. Just showing up for those meetings, being there with those folks. It's not an easy group to attend. It's hard talking about sexuality. We just don't talk about this stuff in the rooms when we're talking about food, and relationships and body image. Hard stuff, really hard, intimate stuff. And I've been doing that maybe a year and a half now. It has changed my life. It has changed my life. And I have to tell you, I'm okay with my body. I really am. I just didn't, I found a picture the other day when I was 25 years old, and I was this tiny little thing. You guys, I have wasted so many years thinking I was so fat, and I was not. It was all a twist of the mind, And I've had to take those thoughts captive and change them. I've had to work the steps. I take a shower now, and I thank my body for all that it has done for me. And I love on it, and I ask it to forgive me. And I work the steps now with my body. As a result of going to that meeting, I realized I never really did a very good sex inventory. And I did get a new sponsor about 10 months ago. And I was able to give away a very powerful, very healing sex inventory that had perpetrators in it, and me as a perpetrator as well. So it was beautiful. It was a beautiful and a very hard thing to do. And that is, don't know what else. I have more personal agency today than I have ever had. So coming from where I came from, I was very victim oriented. I had a lot of learned helplessness. I would wait for people to fix me and wait for God to fix me, always thinking he would do that for me. And one day I heard Larry on Vision for You say, we are powerless. We are not helpless. That was the first time I ever heard that. And I just did not know that I wasn't helpless. And this showing up, meeting with a sponsor, when I first got recovered, I started finding that I could rely on myself. It was such baby steps to give my food to somebody and fail, and then not fail, and then not fail twice, and then fail once, and over and over and over. Real little baby steps to see that actually I can do some stuff. My mantra for a long time was, I'm a big girl. I can do hard things. Even if I didn't think I could, I had to start saying it. I would say, I'm not very good at such and such. I would add the word yet as growth. I had to do a lot of changing of my mind, a lot of psychic changing of my thoughts. And I like slogans, and they're plastered all over my house. When she believed she could, she did. And now it's, I don't have to wish for it. I can actually work for it. These are the kind of things that I have to practice and be very mindful of, because I can slip into victim mentality really, really fast. So I have more personal agency today than I ever have before. And there are some things I still think I can't do, and I might not do them yet, but someday I will. I do live in 10, 11, and 12 today. I am so grateful that I heard my first sponsor say that, because I do live there. I am on a 10th step praying 3 years now. What changed my life, changed my relationship with shame and with dishonesty and self-seeking and selfishness and fear. Wow. For me to, I did not, when I did my 4th step and it said, were you dishonest or selfish? I just put yes, yes, yes. I assumed I was. I'm in this program, but I would not have been able to tell you what was selfish about what I did. I can tell you now exactly when I'm selfish and what it's about. That the 10 step train has taught me that. And for 2 weeks, I get to share my fears and selfishnesses with somebody else. But the beauty was I got to hear other people be selfish and dishonest and fearful. And that allowed me to accept my character defects because I heard them do it and I wasn't alone, and we're all doing it. And we all have this problem. I'm just aware of it now. I mean, my husband is, but he's not aware of it. Although I have to tell you, it's very cool to be able to tell my husband, I got to go do a 10 step, or to walk in the kitchen and go, oh, I don't think I have a 10 step today. And he's like, well, I got something we can talk about and you'll have a 10 step. It opens up the dialogue and then he can tell me, and I'm kind of geared up for it. So I have a lot of personal agency today that I never had before. I do live in 10, 11, and 12. I do serve at in the intergroup level and region level. And I went to World Service for the first time in person a few months ago, and I had done it on Zoom a couple times. And so I am loving recovery and glad I could come here and share it with you guys. Thank you. I'm done. I think I'm done.
Thank you so much, Wanda. That was brilliant to hear. Yeah, we now open the Q&A section of our meeting, which will also be recorded. So please now post your questions in the chat function, and our host Alan will pose the question on your behalf. So over to you, Alan, for the Q&A.
Thanks, Linda, and thanks, Wanda, for a brilliant share. I'm glad we got that recorded. We'll be out there forever.
I signed a paper that said 1 year. No.
So the first question is, thank you for your share. Can you talk more about how you sponsor?
Yes, sure I can. Well, I told you that the first thing I do is we go through that paragraph and talk about how I will meet with her. We can meet. I promise to be there. That's my commitment to her. We talk a little bit about how nothing that I'm going to do except showing up and meeting with her is going to get her recovered. Because so many times, right? And especially me as a victim, I wanted my sponsor to fix me. I just wanted her to fix me. And so we start there. I do have them write a set aside prayer that is personal to them on the front page of their big book, the blank page. The goal being that we come to each of our meetings and to this process with me at this time, a blank slate, no preconceived notions, no scoffing and rolling of the eyes and closed heart. We set it aside. We be open to growth and to learning something new. And it sets a pretty strong intention for us both. And so they will pray that. We read from the very first page. We go through each and every sentence, what I love about it and how they are responding to it. I probably talk more than I should because I love it. I really love the preface. I really, really love the first 4 introductions. buying into the society, the 80 years of this incredible, oh my gosh, I'm gonna just start crying and getting chills. 80 years of this program that's working for everybody. This perfect storm of a little old doctor and Bob, you know, the church member, and Bill, the drunk, well, Bob, the drunk too, the perfect storm of the three of them coming together and putting what was Oxford's 6 steps into 12, because Bill knew addicts can't just take action. They got to think about it. Every other step is you get to think about it, and you get to rest for a while, and then you get to take the action. How brilliant is that? It is just brilliant. It's just brilliant. So there's power in that big book. There's power in that big book. And if you have an open heart and ready, and if you're not ready, well, that's okay too, because sometimes it takes a little bit longer. And sometimes, you know, I do believe that my higher power for me knew how many relapses I had in me. I didn't know. I'm glad I didn't know. But we try and fail and try and fail and try. And I am very much into progress, because victim mentality is, you know, it's all or nothing. I'm either perfect or I'm not going to do it at all. And I would always just not do it. I was, you know, so there's that. We read through up to step 12, and then I let them go, and they call me whenever they need to, or we have a set time once a week for a few minutes or a half an hour to touch base. And they can send me their food. Well, we talk about that. People have different things, you know, about what they need. And we talk about that. I guess that helps. That's all I can think of right now. And we just read together. I don't go real fast. Some people are into going fast. I just do what my sponsor did with me. And we just read. Do the work. The goal is to live in 10, 11, and 12. I talk about that with them all the time.
Brilliant. Thank you for that response. We've got quite a few questions. So the next one says, what would be your main advice for overcoming body dysmorphia?
Come to a body image meeting. Body image meeting. Sharing with others who have the same problem. Reading that book. Getting a core group of people you can be intimate with, and doing some of the stuff the book says. There are 12 steps in there for sexual abuse and having been molested. One woman's story, you know, shares the steps on that. There's 12 steps in there that you can take to change your mind about your body. Talking with other people, what they do. Just loving your body, affirmations. I gave some affirmations out at the image event we had, and I've plastered them on my walls. I have to look at stuff all the time. I have to be reminded all the time. I got so much stuff. Put it on a wall and look at it and ponder it and read it and change your mind. We got to get our mind changed. Call other people to help you change your mind. It's yeah, I guess that.
Okay, great. Okay, the next one says, how do you work through forgiveness towards yourself of the worst parts that come up in your inventory?
I have compassion for myself. I beat myself up for so long that I have a pretty regular running script of, it's okay, Wanda, it's okay. You'll do better next time. It's really a lot. I had to say it to myself first, and now I find myself saying it all the time to my sponsees. It's, you know what, Wanda, you will do better when you can. You just don't know yet. And even that once we know better, it takes a while. First of all, you have to know better. I mean, and you have to forgive yourself, because this thing happened to us. This happened to us. The way I was, the alcoholic home I came from happened to me. I am a victim of it. I didn't choose it. I didn't go out and do it and make it happen. It happened to me. There was nothing I was going to do about that. My disease happened to me. It hooked into me. Any more than I can change the color of my skin. Now, I'm not going to say hair because we can all change the color of our hair, but that is what I have to work with. I can forgive myself for not knowing that I had a disease, for not knowing that I was traumatized as a child. And I didn't choose those parents, but I got them. Now, what am I going to do about it? It is about taking responsibility. It's okay that that happened. And now what are we going to do about it? We can say, I forgive you. I forgive you. There was nothing to do. Nothing could have happened. It's a lot of compassion, a lot of forgiveness, and encouraging myself. You know, I'm so much better today than I was a year ago, 2 years ago. And guess what? I can't wait to see who I'm going to be in a year. I have to tell you guys, this journey is so, and it's hard, and I cry, and it's painful. I have to tell you, it's painful. I'm not always cheerful and wonderful, like what you're seeing here. But I do the fighting and the crying and the kicking and the screaming, and I show up again because there's nowhere else to go. And this is it. I do face the pain. I sit with the pain now. I welcome the pain. Okay, fine. What do we got to work on now? And my surrender is ugly, and it's okay, fine, but whatever, because I'm going to be better in a year. And I tell myself that if you can't encourage yourself and coach yourself into some encouragement, call somebody who does and who can. Write those things down. Start saying them to yourself. Do you know what my phone wakes me up in the morning? Do you know what it says? Get up, precious. It's time for a new day. There's nobody else in the world calling me precious. I got to call myself precious. My phone needs to be calling me precious. What do I need to do for a psychic change? You know, it's a psychic change. I got to change those thoughts and those beliefs. And I got to do what I got to do to look at the past and grieve over that. Wish it didn't happen, but I don't wish for things anymore. I work for them, and I show up where I need to show up, because that's where the healing happens. Going to a meeting is where the healing happens. Just keep going, showing up, and setting aside what you think you know. And higher power will do it to you, for you, but not without you. We have to do a little bit of something, take some action.
Okay, thank you for that one. Okay, the next one says, thank you for your open-hearted share. How do you continue to enlarge your spiritual life?
Well, I pretty much do the same thing all the time. I have a morning routine, and I go to meditation meetings, and I do attend church, and I live in 10, 11, and 12. I have sponsees. That's an enlargement. I attend Al-Anon once in a while because I get enmeshed with my sponsees. I go where I need to go to get the help that I need to get. I attend some ACA meetings. I did Herb K for 2 years during the pandemic. You know, emotional sobriety. There's a wealth of stuff to do out there. I got to be careful I don't do too much, and then I can't focus on any one thing. But morning meditation, evening, I give my day to God. I have a grounding that I mean, my food plan, my action plan that I send to my sponsor. And at night, I look at it, and did I accomplish that? And what happened here today? And that's my 11th step in the nighttime. So you have 11th step morning and evening, and I work with people. That'll keep you on your knees, working with others. It's not always easy. And for the very first time, I had to tell a sponsee, it was breaking my heart, and it took way too long. I should have done it sooner. Maybe not. But I told her I thought she needed to hear recovery from a different voice. Broke both our hearts. But you know what? That was brave of me to do that, and I needed to do that and let her. I mean, she still calls me, but she's working with somebody else because she was going backwards and not forwards anymore. That'll put you on your knees too. That'll put you close to your higher power when you get desperate and scared and unsure. Living in 10, 11, and 12 keeps me close to my higher power.
Thank you for that. Sorry, I was just trying to find the next question. Okay. So when resentments continue to come up around our children, do you have any experience, strength, and hope on this, or any suggestions?
Yes. My daughter's 38, my sons are 40, my two sons live with me. And, a few years ago, I'm so enmeshed with my daughter. Oh my gosh. And, I needed to find a little trick to make me remember to not be enmeshed with her. And so I was trying to detach from her. And you remember there's a game, called Barrel of Monkeys. It's this little plastic barrel and all these monkeys are hooked into each other. I went out and bought that game. I'm sitting there and I'm playing with these monkeys because I knew I was enmeshed with my daughter. She would do bad things and I would want to eat. And she was my best friend, but she shouldn't have been. And I was her best friend and she shouldn't have been, so just had to start working on that. That's an Al-Anon issue, the detachment that needed to happen. And I slowly, emotionally pushed her away. And I would look at these barrel of monkeys and she would call with a problem. And in my head, my mantra, because I have these running mantras, not my circus, not my monkeys. Not your circus, not your monkeys. Wanda, it's not your circus, not your monkeys. It's hers, it's hers, it's hers. If she asks, and even if she asks, no matter what you say, you're going to be in trouble with what she says. So I was able to detach from her, worked real hard at it. About 6 months later, she had her hands on her hips telling me how she and my husband were worried about me being like in this cult of OA. And they were worried about me. And I told her she didn't need to worry about me. And all of that has worked out great. And I still, we're not enmeshed anymore. And I can still get caught up in a little bit of her drama, but you know what? I was able to tell her about 6 months ago. I said, you know what, Amarina, that's her name. I said, you know what? If I die tomorrow, you are going to be fine. And she never knew she was going to be fine. She needed me way too much. And she just smiled and said, thank you. A year previous to that, if I would have mentioned the fact that I would have died, she would have flipped out because she couldn't, too enmeshed and needed me too much. But now I'm hoping she's enmeshed with her husband and not me. And that is the case. So it's way healthier relationship now. But I had a monkey also hanging there from the ceiling. And I would just look at it and go, oh yeah, that's right. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Whatever you need to do to remind you over and over and over and all day long, what you're working on, be mindful of what you're working on. That's what I did.
Thank you for that response. Okay, I'm just aware of time. We've got a few more questions, so we should fit them in. The next one says, how has your relationship with your higher power changed as a result of really working the program?
That's beautiful. That I have to tell you, that is the biggest gift for me. So I had this wonderful higher power, and I was very in love. But then I got wounded, and then I come into this program, and I got a higher power that works these steps, and I got all these people that I hang out with at these meetings, and we're talking higher power. And I'll go to church, and I'll say the name of my higher power there. And I was a little disjointed between the two faiths, the two programs. And it took me about a year. To Venn diagram, a Venn diagram, church and 12 steps, and to bring them together. And what's in the middle is where they both fit each other. I had been asked in one group to not say higher power. I had been asked in my 12-step group not to say my higher power's name that I say. And so I had to meld the two together. And I have, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. And both of the books that I read totally coincide with each other and fit with each other. And there is nothing that one forbids or hates of the other. It is beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. I think the church needs 12 steps. I know the church needs 12 steps. It's just so practical. It's what you can do all day long. It is so practical. It's just practical. I mean, just 12 steps to fix any problem. And the big book says that. It's good for all problems. All problems. And once the food isn't as big a problem, I mean, it'll always be the primary and first problem of the day to take care of. Even Bill, 15 years later had to, the next frontier was emotional sobriety. So that's where, that's where my 10-step train stuff comes in. That's the emotional sobriety. Checking my ego and my motives all the time and my fears. I have a lot of big fears.
Hey, that's probably the last question. So I think you've already covered this one. Do you go through traditions with your sponsees?
No.
That's okay. I think it was covered, but I asked anyway. And I think the last question as we're coming to time, it says you're such an inspiration. Wow. How did you get off the coach? And then you said you were paralyzed with fear. So how do you deal with fear today?
How do I deal with fear today? I do a 10-step train. And if that doesn't help, these are outside issues. I don't know. Byron Katie, if any of you know her, she's got this Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. I'll work one of those. If any of you knows Brene Brown, she's all about shame, is my hero. I'm so shame-based. I will do, she encourages you to write a new story without judgment, saying the word shame, and then telling it to someone, which is much like a fourth and fifth step. So if the 10-step train doesn't work, if the 10th step doesn't work, then I'll go to, I have those other two. And sometimes if I'm so afraid, I will just have to say, no, I can't do that. I'm learning how to say no. And we're just going out there and risking being hurt again. I have much thicker skin today. I have more personal agency to take better care of myself when I do get hurt. I've got a program and I've got peeps. I've got a higher power. I've got a practice that I do every day. Nothing will hurt for too long or be too overwhelming because I have those things in place. That always encourages me.
Okay. So we've got about 2 minutes left. Is there any kind of closing words you'd like to close us out with?
Thank you for letting me be here. No, I'm talked out. Now there's some, if there's people talking to me in the chat, I don't know. I think there's a way I can save it, right? Do I need to? Anybody that has something in a chat that I should see, do I need to save that?
We can go through that at the end, but I'll hand back to Linda just to close the meeting out.
Okay.
But thank you, Wanda.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Wanda, and thanks, Alan, for your service. And thank you, everyone who posted a question. Q&A time has now come to an end. And we will now open the chat to share our numbers for outreach. For those of you who would like to, please share your name and number. Please could all available absent sponsors indicate if you're available to sponsor. If there are any newcomers here tonight, we have a newcomers hub where our newcomer greeters, Claire and Cara, will be very happy to have a more informal chat or answer any questions you might have. So if you would like to stay behind at the end of the meeting, please raise your hand electronically and we'll invite you to a breakout room where, I'm just going to repeat myself then. This group also has a WhatsApp group for Fellows in Inspiration. Please see the chat box for the link, which is being posted now. And we will now close the meeting in the same way we always close a New Freedom Big Book study, by reading the 12 promises of recovery as laid out in the Big Book on page 83. starting with the paragraph, if we are painstaking, and ending, if we work for them. And Wanda, would you be kind enough to read the promises for us, please? They get
Yes.
posted on the screen.
Page 83, right?
Mhm.
Yes, 83. If, there it is. How about that? If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. Thank you. Thank you for letting me share. Thank you for letting me read that. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Our meetings are recovering on a weekly basis. Our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, the 16th of August, 7:30 British Standard Time. And may your higher power bless you and keep you until then.